The main objective of CultureLabs is to help actors who wish to organize participatory projects for social innovation through culture heritage, with the main focus being on projects that aim to involve migrants and refugees. In recent times, we see an increasing interest by museums and other actors in the cultural heritage sector to assume a more socially active role beyond the traditional educational and aesthetic functions of museums, and engage with different communities, including marginalized communities and communities disconnected from dominant cultural heritage. However, those actors often lack the know-how for organizing such initiatives and the types, and are not aware of the methods, the tools, and the collaborators who are appropriate for the type of activities and target audiences they have in mind. Within the CultureLabs project, we have conducted a series of research activities, including desk research, interviews, surveys, with the aim to understand and analyze the needs of different stakeholders and the hurdles they face when in their attempts to build bridges with communities. We have talked with people working at museums, culture associations, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, migrant associations, local governments, as well as individual migrant community members. And here I've put some extracts from interviews which reflect some recurring concerns made by the people we talked with, and which point us to certain directions. So there is need for systematization in the way participatory work is conducted, as well as in the way it is documented, so that cumulative knowledge and experience which is gained through participatory projects is not lost, as we often see it happens even in the framework of the same organization, for example, when a member of staff leaves. It is also essential to have the ability to reuse and further develop existing work and make it work under different circumstances. And regarding knowledge sharing, a common observation made by many people we talked with was that the legacy of participatory projects often comes down to positive reports about successful and catchy results, while we often lack awareness of what is actually happening on the ground, and there is lack of self-reflection. So what is missing is the how and the inside knowledge, the whole process that was followed, including the insights, tips, challenges, the unsuccesses, as one of the interviewees quite eloquently put it. So how can digital technologies be of assistance in this context that calls for solutions that go beyond customary ICT applications for the management and presentation of digital cultural heritage? So we in CultureLabs, we have developed and continue to develop, enrich with new content and improve an online platform that aims to streamline and facilitate the design and operation of participatory projects in a collaborative way. Users of the platform can discover different resources, which we call ingredients, and combine them to form recipes for social innovation tailored to their own needs. And let me explain what we mean by these concepts that we borrow from the culinary terminology. So recipe is a structure that is meant to describe how to carry out a participatory project. The project may refer to an already implemented project, an ongoing project, or a planned project, a project idea. A recipe is characterized by a set of parameters. So the collaborators that are involved, the target groups, the objectives, the associated costs. And it also includes a set of ingredients, so resources that may come in different formats. They may be videos, images, documents, links, and that can be useful for the organization and replication of different steps of that recipe. So resources may refer to policies, to evaluation methods, to co-creation tools, to digital tools, to cultural heritage objects that may be very practical things such as consent forms that can be reused. So really anything that can be useful, especially for others in the context of this recipe. A recipe also includes a set of steps that describe the activities of the project. It also describes the main challenges that were encountered or are foreseen to encounter. It also includes a set of tips, so pieces of practical advice, and it may include some final outcomes of the project, which can be digital exhibition, photographs from a physical exhibition, video, whatever. And let me give an example of how a platform looks in the, how a recipe looks on the CultureLabs platform. So this is a recipe about a project idea that proposes to use digital crowdsourcing techniques for collecting stories and content about migration, fashion, and their relationships. So it provides quite detailed information following the template that I just described. And you can see that there are also links to ingredients referring to tools that can be used to actually implement the different steps of the recipe. And you can have a more careful look on the platform yourself to find out what this recipe and other recipes are about and look like. A visitor of the platform can take benefit of the advanced search functionalities to discover ingredients and recipes by making use of different filters. So search criteria, for example, search based on target groups or kinds of collaborators. There are currently more than 120 ingredients and 30 recipes referring to some of which are complete, some of which are still under development, that can be found on the platform. Users of the platform are also guided to document their own participatory projects as recipes and upload their own material and make them public so that others can benefit from that knowledge. The CultureLabs platform also exposes a set of added value functionalities that allow users to work collaboratively on a common project. So you can set up a closed user group and share a recipe you have created with other users by granting them different access rights. So for example, close collaborators can have edit rights and are allowed to co-shape the recipe together with you, or other users can be granted only read rights and are allowed only to leave private feedback and be engaged in private conversations around this recipe. The platform also provides a searchable repository of organizations from the cultural heritage sector, civic society sector, funding bodies, and other organizations that can be potential collaborators in participatory projects or who offer facilities and services that can be helpful in this context. A user can also choose to copy an existing recipe and customize it to their own needs. They can combine elements from other recipes uploaded by others, change it, complement it with their own material, and thus create a clone of the original recipe that fits their own situation. And visitors can also leave public rating and public opinions on the recipes they find on the platform. So in CultureLabs, we also validate and evaluate how recipes and the CultureLabs platform can benefit organizations and communities via 4 pilot projects, which take place in Italy, the UK, and Finland. Each of the pilots involves different partnerships with organizations from the cultural heritage sector and artistic sectors, collaborating with local governments and civic society organizations. And Each pilot employs a variety of different means of interacting with cultural heritage and involves different groups of migrants and refugees. The ultimate aim of all pilots is to promote intercultural dialogue and social inclusion through interactions with cultural heritage. The pilots are still ongoing, and you can find the recipes describing them, which are still under development on the CultureLabs platform. The platform has proved to be particularly helpful, especially in the ideation phase of the pilots, as well as their refinement and implementation, especially because it has allowed for the efficient collaboration in a digital way between the pilot leaders and their partner organizations and their community partners. Zooming on Heritage is the pilot that takes place in Helsinki and is led by Museovirasto, the Finnish heritage agency. It aims to reflect on the diversity of Finnish heritage by exploring the photographic collections of the museum. And it involves a group of migrant women, as well as a group from members of the Russian-speaking community of the country, who have been involved in visual storytelling through photographs and have co-curated an exhibition that combines photographs from the museum's picture collections with migrants' own photographs and thoughts. So Distant, Incredibly Close is a pilot that takes place in the area of Pisa and is led by Fondazione Sistema Toscana. It involves migrants from the sub-Saharan area and migrants from the Middle East living in the area of Pisa. The participants have participated in a series of guided tours in 4 museums of Italian history, science and technology, and natural history. And then with the assistance of art students, their reflections and thoughts on museum exhibits have been depicted in the form of webcomics, which in turn complement the museum's collections with alternative narratives that connect institutional heritage with migrants' own heritage. Building Culture Through Art is the pilot that takes place in the area of Ancona and is led by Marce Cooperativa Sociale on Luz, a social cooperative in Italy. The main objective of the pilot is to bring together migrants and locals who live in a neglected neighborhood with multi-ethnic diversity in Iesi, in the area of Ancona. This pilot has resorted to theatrical play to overcome language barriers and build a sense of proximity among participants, and is currently experimenting with a technique called rotoscoping for creating animated videos as a means for digital storytelling. More in Common is the pilot led by the People's History Museum in Manchester, which involves mixed groups with diverse backgrounds who have made Manchester their home. So they may be they include refugees, recent migrants, second generation migrants, as well as locals. And the participants work together with museum staff and professional artists to co-create an exhibition, a multi-format exhibition, which will take place on site as well as online, that explores what they have in common. This exhibition takes inspiration from the memorial wall in tribute of Joe Cox, the British Member of Parliament who was murdered by a right-wing extremist around 5 years ago. So to conclude, the pilots and the overall CultureLabs approach demonstrates in practice how participatory projects can be a transformational experience both for institutions and for communities, and leave a legacy for the broader cultural heritage and for community at large. And before closing my presentation, I would like to invite you to visit our the CultureLabs website, and especially our YouTube channel, where you can find interesting material and videos about the pilots, the platform, and other outcomes of the project, of our project. So now I hand you over to Louis, who will introduce our invited speaker for today. So let me stop sharing.